everybody. I am super excited to have one of my amazing clients, friends, sister, now a business adventure transformation chair owner by the name of Miss Kim Schaaf. She's here to talk all about with you about PTSD Awareness Month. I felt very called to bring her on as one of my guest speakers this month because it is PTS Awareness Month, and I'm doing a lot of writing about it and a lot of talking about it. Most people are not aware of that. Women actually have a higher significance of getting PTSD and or complex trauma, which I'll talk a little bit about what the difference is so people get educated to understand what the difference is too. So, Miss Kim, thank you for joining to share your story and sharing that beautiful voice of yours.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So I had the honor, for those of you who are watching, I've had the honor to meet Kim back in, was it 2023 or 2024, Kim?
24.
2024. Okay. You know, timeline's a blur when you're a witch and, you
Okay.
know, and the feminine, we're like, I've known you for lifetimes. So
Right.
I had the honor to meet Kim at a retreat that Lisa Chastain and myself host every year. And at this time, it was called Big Magic. It was our first year. And there was, I believe, 6 women. And Kim, you brought your best friend Chris and business partner Chris as well. And there was Miss Kim sitting across the room. And there she was, gorgeous. I mean, she's gorgeous. Look at her. And when I saw her, Kim was like,
Closed off as.
you
Yep.
can cuss. You can
Yep.
cuss.
Closed off as fuck.
Closed off as fuck. Kim was like, don't come close. Don't come near me. And what was really beautiful to watch it through across the room is like I had already, without even knowing Kim's story, I had already known that she had experienced most likely complex trauma just by her body language, just by her demeanor, that I knew that there was a lot that was underneath the hood. And obviously, you'll share a little bit about your story. And so that's where I met her. And we're going to talk a lot about her own journey today with obviously having complex trauma. And so, really quick, let me talk about what that is. And then I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, Kim, to share your story very openly and vulnerably. So, women ask me all the time, like, what is the difference between PTSD and complex trauma? PTSD, in by definition, clinical definition, is basically where you have one lived experience that causes a severe trauma response. We see this a lot of the times with veterans. Sometimes it could be where you lose a parent at a very young age, but something very shocking and destabilizing to the brain and body. And it's usually one occurrence. Complex trauma, on the other hand, is multiple traumatic experiences over months or over years. We see this where there might be sexual abuse that's happened more than once, emotional or physical abuse more than once happening. I mentioned sexual trauma. It could also be layered with obviously, like Kim, you're going to talk about obviously Kim lost a parent at a very young age. That's what's considered shock trauma. And from that experience, her mom became very emotionally unavailable to provide emotional support for Kim. So not only did Kim experience shock trauma, losing a parent, she also basically lost emotional attunement, emotional care from her mother due to that trauma. And then there was also some sexual trauma that occurred as well. So in Kim's case, before obviously 10 years old, there was multiple, again, experiences that classified as complex trauma. So Kim, without further ado, I want to really ask you, obviously before you began your healing journey, and you obviously had complex trauma that, like we talked about, like how did that impact your daily life, like your relationships? Yeah, how was it before you got into this healing? Like how did it impact you from a consciousness perspective?
Well, now knowing what I know, it explains just the constant having to perform, always having to do something, always um, go, 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 do, no rest. That was very uncomfortable. I felt like I was behind or like I wasn't achieving or something if I gave myself any of that. Um, so on the outside, it looked like I had it together, like I was, doing what I was supposed to do, that kind of thing. It wasn't, it affected my choices in relationships. I had anxious attachment. Um, so that was always, you didn't always make the best choices in that. I mean, I wouldn't change any of those choices because they've made me who I am.
Okay.
And I've learned all that. Um, but it was just on the outside, nobody would have really known that. I
Yeah.
kept that all very well hidden.
Yeah. So what I hear is that like before obviously getting into the healing work, there was a lot of protector strategies. Those of you who've been following me a long time, Kim understands this language is we develop protector strategies that are deployed when there's a traumatic experience as a survival tactic. So when you say like I'm always going, I was always doing, I was always busy, like I couldn't slow down, what we know now and Kim knows now is that that was a survival strategy to attempt to keep you safe. It was keeping you busy because underneath that busyness, which we'll get to in a little bit, and underneath that slowing down was actually the unprocessed stress loop of grief of losing a parent and really grieving that. So protector parts, what they do by strategy is they do a brilliant job to attempt to protect us from feeling certain emotions. Those emotions are usually grief, loss, rage, anger. So they keep the system, body, so busy because they don't want to experience those. Also, choosing partnerships, right? Choosing partnerships that were, again, from that survival strategy, not coming from the heart or the feminine aspect. Those were how you were choosing your partners as well too. So fast forward, what do you believe your turning point was? Like when did you realize that obviously you were like, okay, I need to approach this different, um, because the way that I've been exploring this and healing this or looking at this hasn't working. Like what was that turning point where you're like, okay, I need to approach this very different and handle this than maybe what you had done before?
Definitely my last divorce.
Okay.
Um, it was my second divorce. Not always fun to say, but it was what it was. And I knew I needed to make better choices. And I recognized I wanted to take that time for myself. And I took a couple years just being by myself and that kind of thing. But I knew once I did start to date again, I just wanted to be able to do it in a way that was best for me, being able to assess and make good choices, make sure they're aligned instead of just attaching. And yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't need any of that anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the pivoting point.
So the turning point was your divorce. Now looking back, you've been divorced for a while now. Now looking back, looking at that divorce, when you said I took some space for yourself, which I commend you. For any women that are watching, I invite a lot of women. Hi, my name's Melissa. Have we met? When we jump from relationship to relationship or marriage to marriage, right? It can prevent us from actually learning about ourselves and understanding like why are we creating these patterns? Why are we attracting similar patterns? And it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to say like, oh, I'm the fucking common denominator. Like, oh, like, hey, like, yo, look in the mirror. Like, it's me. It's me. What was it about your divorce that you were like, oh, there's something here? What were some of the patternings or some of the things that you were like, I need to get some resolution on this? Can you recall what some of those were?
Just looking back, they were two totally different marriages, but they were similar in I didn't take the time to assess the choices before I got into that relationship because there were red flags and not great people, but just
Yeah.
there was red flags for those situations and I didn't listen to myself. I didn't trust myself or my intuition. And so that was definitely it. And I knew I needed to be in a more sovereign state and be embodied and be, okay with my decisions and not worried if, just give myself that safety to make that choice.
Yeah. And I want to mirror back for those of you who are watching. One of the things that Kim said is like, I didn't trust myself. I wasn't connected into my intuition. This is what happens when there is complex trauma and PTSD. It's so crucial. So many women spend years shaming themselves. I should have known better. I wish I would have known. and we internalize it, right? I'm sure, Kim, you could to some degree relate to this,
100%.
right? Like, I wish I would have known, shame on me, like, why didn't I listen to that gut feeling? Well, the problem is when there is complex trauma and or PTSD, it does everything to keep you disassociated from that felt sense. So the survival part of the brain, the amygdala part of the brain, is what tends to be turned on more often than not. So it's not that your intuition's not there, it's you're disconnected from it because you've been in survival as a survival strategy. And so we're going to talk about how you've gotten back in touch with that in your intuition. And it's really crucial for women, if you have experienced complex trauma and or PTSD, really understanding the difference between your higher self, your intuition, versus a trauma response, right? When you say like, oh, I attach, we know that that is a survival strategy. That's not necessarily your intuition or higher. That was your default strategy. That was like, oh, that's what was known, that was familiar. So by you taking that space was part of the process. So many people think trauma is just mental, and they really don't realize that it is actually an emotional experience. And that emotional experience that we've been talking about, it lives in the body. We now know through science that the mind and body are connected. They're not disconnected. And there is a place for cognitive talk therapy to talk about the problem. But since I met you in 2024, what do you believe that you started to discover about your own nervous system through your body and through that healing process? Like, what did you discover through your nervous system?
Oh, I was completely disassociated. I lived from the neck up. Like I didn't recognize cues from my body or I was just totally disconnected from that part of me.
Yeah. And when you started to get into the nervous system, right, through different processes, i.e., breath work, i.e., you and I did parts work, but we're going to get to psilocybin in a second. What was that like for you to start getting into your body, right? And there were times it was like, okay, slow down, get into the body, right? Like create space. What was that like for you?
Oh, it was crunchy as fuck. That, that was
Ah, it's
like,
crunchy as fuck. Yeah.
yeah, it was not easy. I mean, one example, like I was not a hugger. Nope, we don't do that. Nope. And I could hug like clients, people that I don't know, but like my business partner Chris, she would get so mad. She's a hugger, and I would not hug her because it would be too much. It was made me feel things I didn't know what to do, know what to do with,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
and I love that you brought that up, Kim. That's so crucial. When someone was coming close to you, and like a hugging is an example, and you were like, I don't know what to do with this. Would it be fair to say that your nervous system was like, what the fuck?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right?
It feels like, ugh.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
heebie-jeebies, like, whew,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this. So let's take a moment and pause and talk about, if you feel comfortable, about how old you were when you lost your father. How did you lose your father, and what was your experience of your mother at that stage?
I was 5 when he was electrocuted in a work accident. I mean, I didn't really understand, what was happening. I was, and a lot of it I have shut out. I don't really remember a whole lot around the whole incident. I just know I was lonely and scared. I didn't understand. Um, a lot of that is just shut out, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And what can you recall to your best cognitive ability of like your experience of your mom? What do you remember about your mom when that happened, and what was your experience with her?
Um, I mean, the main thing, she was sad, right? Like, I couldn't make her happy again. Um, and now, knowing what I know now, like, I can't imagine. Have no idea how that would be. But as a 5-year old, no idea why I don't get the love or attention or any of that anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think that was like talking about it now, I think that was almost even harder because there was grief from losing someone that was right in front of me
Absolutely.
that I
Absolutely.
couldn't understand why.
Yeah. And for those of you who are watching, let me give you some context to this to help you to understand. So the nervous system defaults to what's familiar, right? And what is known. So when Kim said earlier, hugging Chris, her business partner, would feel like crunchy as fuck. That doesn't make Kim right or wrong. It just means that her nervous system did not have a lot of experience with closeness and safety. And so, as an adult, when a woman would come to her, in particularly, it would register as like, ooh, this feels uncomfortable. Because when Kim lost her father at a very young age, children do not have the ability to self regulate. The brain is not fully developed. So, when a child is in a stressful state or a dysregulated state, a child slowly a child is solely dependent on a primary caregiver for that soothing and that comfort and that nurture. So when Kim lost her dad, she also lost the warmth and the attunement from her mother. So mother completely obviously went into her own trauma response. She shut down. She probably went into a freeze state. She probably isolated. And so that warmth and that nurturing that would normally happen via the feminine, the mother, really wasn't there for Kim. So when I met Kim 3 years ago now, 2 years ago, excuse me, at the Big Magic Retreat, when I said I knew that Kim had experienced some form of complex trauma, I witnessed Kim's body language towards women, how she was. So I knew by default there was already a mother wounding that had occurred because there wasn't that warmth or that, yeah, come in for a hug, let me touch you kind of openness per se. Like Kim was, so really quick, coming full circle. So what's important, and Kim, you've done so much work around this, which I commend you, which is why I wanted to have you on today and talk about it, is that what you experienced as a child, what you experienced as a child hardwired your nervous system in two different ways. One, closeness to the feminine felt uncomfortable for you. Going towards the masculine, father, you were anxious attachment. You were running towards that. You were running towards that very thing that you didn't get from a primary father figure. You were running towards that very thing. So your default strategies were exactly completely shaped around your traumatic experience,
Sure.
without a shadow of a doubt. Right? So obviously I got to work with Kim and we got to dissect a lot what was going on. She had multiple conversations with me in work, and she obviously knew that I was a psychedelic facilitator. And, without sharing anything that feels too private, what did that psilocybin help you to access, right? So what I mean is like access it, like kind of lifted the veil, and to help you to release some of these unprocessed stress loops, which it does, we'll talk about it, and let go of some of these survival patterns that maybe talking about your trauma couldn't do, right? Talk therapy cannot, because it doesn't access the body. Psilocybin accesses the body. So without sharing too much private details, what do you believe, or what do you know now that psilocybin helped you to access and create for yourself?
I mean, it totally helped me connect back into the body. Like, it helped smooth those pathways so I could set down the shame, the grief. Like, I could look at my past in a different way and give myself grace. I had a very hard time giving myself any kind of grace. It was extremely hard on myself. I'm a hugger now, like.
You are a hugger now. You're a great hugger.
I I mean, how light you feel afterwards, the freedom from that, like I can step back and not react to things anymore. I can be responsive, I can assess,
Yeah.
and be able to make the best aligned choice for myself instead of just having a knee-jerk reaction or, you know,
Yeah.
attaching or whatever, or rejecting or whatever it
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah. So here's a couple of things that I want to hear is that one, it created a lot of release and freedom in your nervous system. So now you have the capacity to respond versus knee jerk survival react like you've done in the past. So your capacity, I always talk about this, your glass has grown extensively because you've let out the water, you've let out some of the survival response, i.e., when I served you, there was a lot of grief that you cried that day. There was an immense amount of grief that your body just needed to let go and cry and purge that and release that. Because
Yeah.
by default, when trauma happens, the body naturally wants to close the stress loop. How we close the stress loop naturally is either by running, fighting, pushing away. Like we do some type of physiological response. But in your case, when there's shock trauma, like you had, the nervous system doesn't have the capacity to close that loop. So that loop stays open, which is what makes you have the reactive behavior that you have. So when you were able to process that grief and move through that crunchy emotion that was hard to access, and you can move through that in a safe environment, which you did, you're responding now to life versus reacting, which is allowing you to make more informed decisions from your heart versus that survival strategy, is really what I hear.
Yeah. And I think one, like, probably the best thing that's come out of it is my relationship with my sister. She's 11 years younger than me. Sorry.
Nope. So
Um,
clearly, remember, we don't apologize for what we show.
I know. She's 11 years younger than me. And so I was like, I was 11 when she was born. So I mothered the shit out of her. Like, we were super close. I would go and pick her up from the daycare and she would run to me and stuff like that. And then now knowing what I know, at like when she was like 5 or 6, like I didn't know what to do with her anymore because I didn't have that patterning, right? And we had
Yeah.
this big disconnect. And through this work, because I could never like say what I wanted to say or how I felt and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And through this work, it has brought us so much closer. Like I remember the first big magic, and she lives out by you, so we used her car, and I had this whole vision of I was gonna talk to her and tell her all this stuff, and I just couldn't do it. And then we got to the airport, and it was just when we were getting ready to leave, and I'm like, I think you're an amazing mom, and I gave her a hug and then left. That's what I had at that time, you know. Now it's totally different, and that's one of my most favorite things that's come out of this.
So here's what I hear is that relationship has come full circle for you to actually move towards her even more.
Yeah,
Move towards her in a different way than you might have done in the past. Is it
for sure.
allows you? Yeah, it allows you. So it's it's tender
Yeah.
for you there. Is it grief? What's the emotion if you were to name it? What comes up for you when you talk about that?
Um, just happy. Um, I'm a lot more sensitive than I ever thought I was, but
Yeah.
um,
Welcome to the
just
feminine.
yeah, just happy that we're connected again, and that it has that I can talk to her and share in her kids' lives. I love her children, and just
Yeah.
have each other in our lives more than just a birthday text or something like that.
Yeah. How long were you guys like really not connected? How many years would you say?
I mean, not like probably 20 years.
It's a
I
long time.
mean, really,
Yeah.
because they were little when I left. When I graduated high school, I moved the day after high school. I had
Yeah.
to get out, and then I was gone, and I would come back, but not really be
Yeah.
accessible. There again, I myself was completely emotionally unavailable. So, yeah.
Because again, by proxy, again, let's come full circle. A woman, when she's not exposed to vulnerability, to emotions, to that warmth, through emotion, through that felt sense, doesn't mean that it's not there. Because now look at Kim. It's been there
It's been
all
there the whole time.
along. It's been there a long time. It's just been layered with some stuff we had to let go of,
You look behind
literally.
the movies or something like that, like blow
Yeah,
my head off, right?
totally,
Yeah.
totally. And now that that has, I have to say this. I remember Kim, Kim, when Kim first went into the medicine, what did you say, Kim, going into the medicine? What was the first thing you said? Remember?
When I started talking to you when I was under
Yeah.
it,
Do you remember what you said?
that I didn't want to die thing, or what?
Yeah, yeah. You're like, I don't want to die, or like, I'm dying.
It
You
was
literally thought I was going to take your body and die.
that's what well, that now we know it's what resistance in medicine, and it was a white marquee board with letters that said you were going to die today, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't want to die. And then I had these visions of Melissa like figuring out what to do with my body, and I finally spoke up, and she's like, do you think maybe it's your ego that's gonna die today? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
And as soon as you let that go,
Yeah,
woof, the
yeah.
medicine just started to do exactly what it does. And so I bring that up because those are strong protector parts.
Mhm.
Ego is a protector strategy, right? And so when we go into a psychedelic assisted therapy, the more we resist that, what that is, the more uncomfortable it can be. And once we say, oh, okay, there is aspects of self that want to let go. There's aspects of who I have become that are no longer serving me. There are aspects of my emotional conditioning that are harming me, that are not helping me, right? This is where we get to access those
Yeah.
when we soften that default mode network, which Kim got to experience so full force head on. So, kind of coming full circle, life today. Woo! Looking at the woman that you are today,
Mhm.
the woman who first began her journey, I've known for over 2 years now. What would you say has been the most transformative of how you experience joy now, how you experience friendships and relationships now, and even yourself? Like, what's been so significant of how you experience yourself now that way?
Probably just being able to being present with my kids, with my friends, like not constantly going and doing. I can be still. I can be in that quietness that I give myself every day now. Like
Yeah.
that feeds me.
Yeah.
Um, Joy, like now I look for it. Before it was always like the shoe, the other shoe's gonna drop, or
Yeah.
like I just, I don't know. It wasn't natural. And now it's like that's that lens that I look through that it's always going to be okay. I'm trusting that the universe, that God's going to bring me what I need and what I want, and being able to just be in that flow. It's not like it's always perfect. That's
Wow.
it still comes in. Like
Yeah.
I still feel it. Yeah, you're still going to feel that stuff, but then it's coming up to make you aware, like
Yeah.
things that you still need to work on.
Yeah. And I love that you brought that up because when we become more resourced, so let's go back to when there's complex trauma and or PTSD. Usually, again, I love using a glass as a metaphor, is that most people who've experienced complex trauma and or PTSD, they have a limited resource, meaning that their container from a stress response is very full. This is where we see where it's like we're back to back schedules, we're always busy, right? We may have strong coping strategies where we might overeat, overdrink, overshop. Some people use sex, right? No shame, but like our ability to regulate, meaning like let the excess stress out, take some space to regulate, discharge those responses instead of it build up, build up, build up, build up, build up, build up. People who've had complex trauma and or PTSD, a lot of the times, and Kim, I'm sure you could speak to this, is a lot of the times there's a very high pain tolerance. And we talk about this at Big Magic, and we talk about this at Unleashing Your Capacity, which we are doing in a month from now. We talk a lot about the pain and pleasure paradigm, meaning that you most likely have a very high threshold of pain. So your ability to work long hours, your ability to do things to push your body to keep that throttle going is very high.
Yep.
It's very, very high. So letting some of that come out, discharging some of that, whether it's through joy, whether it's through play, whether it's through stillness and quiet. These are different ways that I talk about accessing and building a bigger capacity, which we need. The reality of it is like you can't get to that when you are in constantly survival from that pain paradigm. It does require to discharge and create that space. So for Kim, she's okay with quiet now. She actually enjoys that. Her lens is she's like, I'm looking for joy. I'm going to move towards the thing that I can have fun. I don't have to feel like the shoe's always going to fall off the other foot, and I don't have to feel like I'm always grinding and I'm always hustling. That's the difference. And Kim, let me ask you, using the glass metaphor, can you physically feel, since your psilocybin journey, can you feel the difference physiologically now in your body when you are either when your capacity's full and you're like, oof, I'm at my edge, I'm full. I need to take some step, I need to discharge, I need to I need to get back. Can you feel the difference distinctively now?
100%.
Yeah.
I cannot push those long hours behind the chair anymore. My body is like, no,
Yep.
not doing that. It's too much.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about capacity, and is as we grow our capacity, whether it's through psilocybin, whether it's through somatic therapy, we know that trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens inside of you when the traumatic experience happens. And I also want to be clear is that trauma doesn't necessarily have to mean physical abuse in your experience, losing a parent. It could be you can have mom and dad in the same household, and there was really no love and affection, and there was no emotional attunement. And that also can have a traumatic experience, right? Having parents that are very high pressure. You need to have straight A's, you need to go to this school, you need to play these sports, right? Like, we see these adaptations very vastly different. So I want to be very crystal clear that for anyone watching, you don't necessarily have to have complex trauma, and you can also have both parents in the same household and still experience trauma in the same essence, where you are not emotionally tuned for, and there's a lot of pressure to perform significantly at a very young age. I have a client who you met, Elaine. I've talked about her multiple times. She had both parents in her household, but her parents were working multiple jobs, and she became the caretaker for her siblings at a very young age. So she became basically a caretaker at 6, 7 years old, taking care of. And so she basically was parentified by her parents. And so her ability to play, her ability to let go and have fun,
Yep.
not even accessing there. And so this is why we're having these conversations, is that women heal through the body. Women heal through new lived experiences. This is how we heal. This is how we return back to the feminine. And this is how we make choices and decisions from the feminine, which, Kim, I want to just mirror to you. You are fucking stunning in your feminine, queen. Like,
Thanks.
I have got to watch you evolve, and God, like, you are the embodiment, which, let's lead it to this. Miss Kim has this beautiful company she's birthing into the existence called Transformation Chair. And share with the audience, what is Transformation Chair, and why did you birth this into existence, and what is it for women?
Well, transformation chair, I mean, I've been a stylist for 30 years, and it's always, I love doing transformations on women. I can see who they can be through beauty. And my tagline, I was talking to this with somebody, has always been body, beauty, being. And I know all three of those always needed to be there because it's all three parts.
Yeah.
But And that's been in my head for 15 years. But I hadn't fully embodied the being part yet until I started this work. I knew, positive mindset, and I, went to church, and I knew all amazingly positive things. But doing the deep inner work and looking at my shadows and my work and stuff and being able to talk to women about that is a different level. So Transformation Chair is starting to work with clients more deeply, like in a 12-week container, and it's outside, it's hair, it's makeup, it's fitness, it's nutrition, it's somatic work, it's nervous system work, it's everything to transform top to bottom and inside out. So I see, especially middle-aged women, like everything's been around your kids or your family or whatever, and I'll see these Facebook pages with nothing of them on them. Mm-hmm. It's about everybody else. And women need to be out there themselves. I've always tried to show that my kids, like, go after your dreams no matter how old you are. I want to see more women doing that. But some of that is stuff they need to work on internally to be able to let themselves be seen. Yeah. And I have a gift of helping them be able to feel their most beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you said, like the being was the one component, and you've taken the last couple of years to embody that, and now you understand, right? And you are in the beauty industry. The beauty industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we even see it in the younger demographic because of technology and social media, right? It's like there are social conditionings that are happening right in front of our face real time. Is that when we see beautiful women and we have these filters and we have these things, we automatically associate that their life is amazing and they're gorgeous and they're stunning. And I love the fact that you're bringing in the being piece. I love the fact that you also brought up middle-aged women. Middle-aged women, the reason why middle-aged women usually like later 30s, early 40s is when perimenopausal and menopause start to kick in hormonally. That veil becomes very thin, meaning that your ability to suppress those emotions or hold those down are no longer there. So you can do so much externally, but eventually your body's going to say, yo, bitch, like something on the inside needs to be looked at, because how you've been living, it's not in accordance and it's not going to work. So I love that you're bringing that component in, and it's so needed and so beautiful. And so for any of you who are watching, I'm going to tag Transformation Chair. Please follow Kim, follow her story. And if you are wanting a top to bottom makeover, reach out to Miss Kim. She's got your back. And Miss Kim, is there anything else that you want women to know about, obviously, PTSD, complex trauma, and the importance of somatics and healing through different modalities? Is there anything you want women to know?
It's not easy. It is never fun to look at yourself. It is, like we like to say, crunchy as fuck. Like it is hard, but it is absolutely 100% worth it. Yeah. And I just want every woman to feel that feeling of freedom when you finally set that shit down.
Yeah, girl, put that motherfucking backpack down. As Lisa says all the time, put it down. Yep. Yeah. And when you put it down, look how light and spaciousness. And I'll leave it with this. Not only when you put the backpack down, kind of what I mentioned earlier, is that your nervous system can really start to differentiate the different of like, ooh, this actually feels really good. This feels pleasurable, versus like, ooh, this fucking constantly is bringing me pain. It's chaos. It's discord. You can start to differentiate the two more distinctively.
100%.
You could distinct completely different. Miss Kim, as always, I can't wait to see you in a couple weeks here in California. I'm trying to convince Kim to move out here eventually. Just going to throw that in the ether. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please follow Miss Kim, like her on social. I'll put all of her links in, and have a great day.